Hey everyone, I hope everyone's feeling good, I hope everyone's feeling blessed. Yes guys, today I've actually got something that's quite different. I've tried to record this video 3 times, I'm now outside, it's absolutely freezing cold, the sun's gonna set in about 45 minutes. So yeah, life's going great guys, life's going absolutely great. Today, a friend of mine from college, she's a producer, she's absolutely amazing in what she does. She's tried something different, she's tried to make something a bit orchestral. But what I've noticed is after listening to it, she's kind of created this kind of bit of a minimalist kind of vibe. So, you know, minimalism, for those of you who know about minimalism, might be studying it even at GCSE, is, you know, you've kind of got all these repetitive ideas that keep building up, and then you've got little short motifs that kind of build up and they all kind of keep repeating. So, yeah, she's just basically asked me to have a look at it, kind of put my little musical pizzazz onto it, do you know what I mean? So, I'm just going to do that now, and this wind is a pain. So, but first, before we even do that, we're just going to have a listen to it. Well, there we go. There we have it. So yeah, this is actually quite interesting. This is quite different. This is something I haven't really done before. Is looking at, you know, breaking something like this down and just trying to kind of fix it up in this way. But yeah, so when it comes to things like this as well, if you actually just literally listen to this, you know, you've got all these different ideas going on, but because you're using the same instruments, you know, it's almost as if you kind of can't hear what's going on with every idea, because every idea that she's produced and she's put down here is somewhat slightly different or contrasting rhythmically to another idea. So the idea is that you want to be able to hear the contrast and the difference between those ideas. But when you use, you know, all the ideas on the same instrument or the same set of instruments with the same kind of sound, it's not ideal, is it? So I think one of the first things I'm going to do is literally pick on one of these sections and then just break it down and spread it across instruments. So yeah, I think I'm going to start off with this. Was it this one here? This is the one, yeah. So as you can even hear, and if you can actually see it, there is so much going on just on this one instrument stem. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, there's like 9, 10 layers of instrument stuff. I think some of this is octaved. I think the bottom 2 layers, bottom 2 sets down here is just spread into octaves. But when you've got all of this going on one instrumental track, it can become quite a lot. You can kind of get a clash as well. And what also helps as well is to kind of think of it realistically. Like, you know, if you were a violinist or if you're a cello player, can you really play all of that at the same time? Do you know what I mean? Is it really even possible? Sometimes, even if you think about it from a bit more of a realistic perspective, it does kind of help to give you an idea of how to spread things out. So, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to drag this down here. I'm just going to copy this really quickly. She's used, you know, stock plugins from Logic. I'm just going to hype up her sounds just to start off with. So, once again, I'm going to go over to the BBC Symphony Orchestra plugin. We're going to use the first violins, but we're going to use the staccato patch because, you know, the notes are quite short and detached. Then I'm just going to copy that patch again, and then this time do the same thing for the second violins. So what I'm going to do here is spread out all of those instrument lines, those, you know, those little, the notes and the rhythms that are pitched at different points. I'm going to spread them out between the string section of instruments. So in the string section of instruments, you've got your first violins, which usually play the highest pitched sequences and, you know, rhythms and whatever. You've got your seconds, which kind of accompany the first, and they usually, a lot of the time, what they play is around about an octave lower down. You've got your violas, which kind of sit in the middle, and they kind of have that kind of alternating kind of motifs and stuff, which kind of reflects both the upper strings, which is your first and seconds, and your cellos and double basses. And then next, you've got your cellos, and then your lowest pitch instruments, which people get a bit confused about. So the big cello, as people call it, is your double bass, and that's what has the lowest pitch. So I'm just going to go and put this patch through. Right, so what we've now done is spread out our strings. We've got our first, second, violins, violas, cellos, double basses. What we're now going to do is spread out the notes between those 5 instruments. So for the first violins, I'm going to keep them playing the highest pitched notes of this musical phrase here. So if I just click on the first here, I think if I just literally keep them that top line there, da 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 da. You see how that just fits with the metronome, right? What I'm then going to do is do the same for the second violins, except obviously because the first violin's already playing this top line here, I'm going to give them the next 2 lines down because that's got a bit of a different kind of feel to it. Dun, 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 dun. So you can see how it's just kind of starting to come together already, just by splitting it all up. Cool. Right, next I'm going to go into the violas. I'm going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to do this for all the instruments. And that's just going to repeat over and over. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the double basses, except they're going to have the same phrase, but an octave lower. Instead of giving them staccato, I'm going to give the double basses pizzicato. So instead of them actually playing the notes on the bow, they're actually going to be plucking it individually just like that. And that is now going to sound like this. So you can already hear how, you know, the feel of it's different already. Cool, so that's just going to repeat over and over. What else can we do to this? Let's just listen to this as a whole once again. So you can kind of, you know, you've kind of got the idea that everything's starting to spread out a bit. Next thing I'm going to do is find another line to look at. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to look at this line now. I know exactly what I'm going to do for this one just by hearing it. Okay, so, you know, it's been put here violas. But obviously, what we don't want to do is, you know, we've got our violas second, first. We've got all our string section playing something. We want to use other instruments in the orchestra. So for this, I'm going to use some flutes. You've got those really kind of short, just spread out notes. And I think the flutes in the woodwind section are going to have a really good effect on that. I'm going to use staccato for this as well, just to kind of emphasize those notes, just so they don't kind of drag out in any way. So now this sounds like this. Okay, I'm not done yet. I'm going to double these up, and I'm going to take these up an octave on the piccolo. So piccolo, basically, piccolos and flutes kind of work together, but the piccolos play everything like an octave, or I think it's like an octave or 2 octaves higher. So I'm just going to use the piccolos just to emphasize those notes even more. Maybe let's introduce the piccolos a bit later on. Let's give it that last set of 32 bars there. Let's not have too much playing at exactly the same time. I'm going to take this up an octave. Okay, I just want to listen to how these two sound. Let's try that. Let's just play about the notes a bit. Take some up an octave, take it down each time. So there we go. You can kind of hear that variation with the instruments already. Okay, what I'm going to do this time, I'm actually going to change the actual phrase. So instead of going da 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 da, I'm going to go da 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 da. So that way, you know, we've got the instrument variation, we've got the rhythmic variation, we've got the articulation-based variation, and now we've also got the melodic variation on top. And then it'll go back to the original phrasing that we had before. So, you know, just even things like that, just changing some of the notes around when you've got those phrases can also really help as well. I think just for the sake of making that very dominant as well throughout, I'm just going to duplicate this down here, and I'm also going to get the oboes. So oboes are another woodwind instrument as well. I'm just going to get those to double it up as well, just for the sake of yeah, just having a really strong woodwind section there. And you're going to hear why I'm actually doubling up the instruments instead of the layers. You're about to hear it very well. So if I just drag this down, blah blah blah. Right. So what you'll now hear is this. So you can now hear that the woodwinds, they just sound slightly stronger in themselves. And then with the piccolo at this point here. Okay. Okay, cool. Right, what I'm now going to do, just for the sake of not dragging out this video, I'm going to do a part 2 on this, but for the sake of just trying to keep this kind of short and simple, I am now going to play it with what we've already done to the strings at the bottom, just so you can hear how much of a difference I've already made, putting some flutes, oboes, a bit of woodwind on it, and a bit of string variation as well. So you can kind of hear, you know, just by spreading out the instruments, just even that motif, you probably couldn't even hear it before. The da 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 da. You probably couldn't even hear it as well before, but now it's, you know, we've given it to a different instrument. The sound is different. There's a bit more variety and a bit more variation there. Just a bit, you know, those sounds are just contrasting a lot more. I think just for the sake of this, I'm going to leave it here for now. And then I think even just looking at sections like this and this as well. I think these long notes, kind of thinking about what I'd do for them. I think for things like this, I think I would give it to the brass instruments, because, you know, you've got things like your French horns, your trombones, your bass trombone, your tuba, and the trumpets. You can really kind of use those instruments and combine all the chords together amongst the instruments, and then just have them kind of swirl in and out. I think I will do something like that. I'm going to leave that for part 2 for this video. But for now, this is, what should we even call this? Fixing up orchestral music part 1. There we go, that works. Fixing up orchestral music part 1. Yeah, that's what we've got for now. And I'll see you guys in a bit. Take care.